Hi, my name is Asakma Khan, and today I'm going to give a presentation on international labor mobility and effects on countries. But before proceeding, I would like to thank my teacher, Miss Annie Brodnock, for her valuable guidance and consistent encouragement throughout the course. Secondly, my dearest group members, Muhammad Mas and Monis Khan, for being a part of this group and work as a team and helping each other to complete this task. We will go step by step. So, first of all, I would start with the introduction. What is international labor mobility and what are their actually impact on the countries, nationally or internationally? So, in the conditions of developing globalization and democratization of public life, the number of countries included the process international mobility increases every year. Along with the legal form of migration, illegal migration is gaining momentum. The trend is typically for the Republic of Belarus. Migration process in the countries directly affect the economic situation of the republic. The most important component of migration flows today is labor mobility, the scale of which is enormous. Thus, according to the International Labour Organization, in 2004, about 185 million people, roughly, according for more than 90% of international migrants, moved around the world in search of work, and the 10% remaining could be the students or for the visit purposes. So, in the context of globalization, an increasing number of countries are becoming involved in the process of international mobility for the workplace. Currently, around 200 countries are involved. The process of globalization, reflecting the level of development and modern civilization, today acquires an objective and at the same time contradictory characters. Furthermore, the trend of globalization represents an intensive process of integration for a quality new level when the whole system of the world economic ties acquires comprehensive and ambiguous character. Globalization is not one-line process but multi-directional process, a gradual convergence of national economic system, going unevenly with different rates of inclusion in the process countries, spheres, and sectors of national economies. There are many rather contradictory theories in the economic literature that explain motives, causes, and consequences of labor mobility for the world as a whole, both for countries and living and immigration. In this regard, it seems that the problems that evaluation the world labor market, the need of the study issues on labor mobility, the problem of international labor migration, and its impact on the national skilled labor market in the context of globalization are relevant, legitimate. The multifaceted nature and modern migration process, the context of global development makes it necessary and in demand for a new approach that will allow assessing the impact, contradictory consequences, and reveal development potential inherent in international labor migrants. The purpose of this paper is to explain the international labor mobility and its effects on the countries. Let's have some discussion about the labor migration and mobility. Labor resources are part of the population of the country that has necessary physical development, mental abilities, and knowledge to work in the national economy. The concept includes both availability and stock of labor. Geographic displacement of significant part of people work age are called labor migrants, and participants in the process called migrants. A country that receives migrants is called a resident country. An importer of labor and immigrants enter migrants. The country from which the labor forces leaves is called donor country. Such as people from Pakistan move to the Middle East, such as Saudi Arab or Dubai. So Pakistan is the donor country, and Saudi Arab or Dubai is the resident country. Alright, so the exporter of the labor force, the immigrant citizens living in search of work, the depending on long-term movements of the population, permanent or non-returnable migrants are allocated and temporary, sometimes seasonal, for example, for the period work study migration. The nature, extent, and direction of migration flows the modern era differ markedly from the flows of both distant and rather close part. Moreover, migration is one of the necessary conditions of the labor market. The size and direction of international labor migration depends maintenance of the national economy in terms of number and quality of labor potential. Accounting regulation of migration is particularly important in the analysis of process of international labor market, the period of integration into the modern world economy. Further quantitative and qualitative composition of the labor force in conjunction with other factors determines the pace economic development of the country, the level of welfare of the population, the overall economic potential of socio-economic system as a whole in the conditions of transformation of economy, the economic problems and contradictions associated with the foreign migration. In this regard, the impact of international labor migration on the quality of total labor potential of society and employment, both the national and regional leads a deep and comprehensive economic analysis. Alright, let's some discussion about the world labor market. The world labor market is a sphere of exchange of the most important factors of production. Labor depends on the situation flexibility of national markets, which contributes or hinders the mobility of the labor force. Institutional flexibility of the labor market is set primarily by the norms of labor legislation, but other institutional factors play an important role. The mechanism of wage formation, the order of indexation, the unemployment insurance system, the functions and influence of trade unions organization, such as the interaction with the market of educational services. The extent to which the labor market is flexible or the contrary is subject to the excessive regulation can be judged primarily by the speed of interbranch redistribution of labor force, by the rate of change in the structure of employment, the prevalence of its new standard forms, the level of professional mobility duration is and differ of work time, wage mobility depending on the phase of business cycle, as well as geographic mobility of the population. Moreover, providing more rational effect use of labor is possible only in conditions of a flexible labor market. New forms of labor organization dictate needs and flexible working hours. Rapid changes in the quantity and qualitative of labor force used, both throughout changes in working hours, use part-time worker or outsourcing, the retraining system, firms that face great volatility in demanding for products and technologies are likely to require more flexibility than firms in more stable sectors. The task of increasing the flexibility of labor market becomes especially relevant in the context of inter-country competition and the inclusion of national states in the international division of labor. In the context of excessive regulation, the labor market, the effectiveness government measures aimed at finding employment for the released labor is reduced, and overly stringent labor legislation places significant financial burden on the employer, which can also have a negative impact on the functioning of the labor market as a whole and complicate employment opportunities for the least protected working group forces, limiting its mobility. Consequently, the world labor market is formed only under the condition flexibility of national and regional labor markets. It is formed on the presence of factors that increases the mobility of the workforce, the creation of knowledge-based society. Other factors include the transformation.
Hi, I'm Monu Khan. As my fellow Yasir Khan described the labor mobility and its effects on the countries, so now I would like to throw a little light on the effects of labor mobility on countries. First, we should consider that labor is originally included in the context of world economic global problems, and it's also becoming an integral part of modern system of world's economy. There is a close connection between migration and the development of this sphere of employment. It's also confirmed by the historical experience that this present stage, the nature of this interconnection is much more complex and diverse and often contradictory. Many countries are actually becoming a part of global economic space due to the labor mobility, because this is the migration of different kind of labor to different countries is affecting the economy of that particular region as well as the country. There is also a very strong relationship between migration and the reduction of unemployment. Actually, when they return back home, they increase the demand of imported goods, forcing poor countries to increase foreign and exchange costs for their purchase. which actually affects the economy of their poor countries. There's also decline in the demand for local consumer goods. Respectively, it actually reflects in national production. The economic implications for the host countries due to labor mobility are labor mobility increase competitiveness for manufactured goods due to lower production cost, cheaper labor. Foreign workers providing additional demand for goods stimulate the growth for production volumes. It also saves costs for education and training of the workers because the previous workers were already been trained and educated, so they have an idea how to work in a certain atmosphere. Foreign workers are also not provided with pensions. They are not taken into account when in implication of social programs. We should also talk about the data on the use of labor mobility, which says that the imported capital creates additional production capacities and new jobs in the labor exporting countries, which weaken the people's desire to go abroad to work. So they're actually surviving in their own countries in search of work. And the same effect is exerted by foreign public and private long term loans to less developed countries. This problem of illegal immigrants and the penetration of organized crime from the east and the west was acute. Labor mobility has evolved into a complex and multi-factor process of population transfer. Especially attractive of immigrants of this kind are United States, European Union, Australia, New Zealand. So these countries are the most affected and most attracted by those migrants. So this was the little overview of the effects of labor mobilities on different countries. Now my fellow Mars Maimon would like to share his information about the advantages and disadvantages of labor mobility, and he will also tell us about the conclusion, and we'll look out for your questions. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mohammed Maaz and my student ID is VSS31056. Now I would like to move forward from what my mate Monas Khan was telling you guys. Now we can speak regarding the advantages and disadvantages of international labor mobility. First, we'll go with the advantages, which are quite few in numbers. First of all, the unemployment ratio of the home country decrease, and like the impact of home country on the other countries is impressive because of the highly qualified labor is transferred. Secondly, the government of the home country can earn a lot through the taxes of the remittance sent by the international labor, and not only this, there is the investment done by the international worker in their home country, which can be in terms of real estate as well. Now I would like to share my views on disadvantages of international labor mobility, which are not very much in the numbers, but you can say there is a recession of employment, recession of the worker in the home country, where all the qualified workers are going abroad for earning money, good amount of money, and there is a social change in the market as compare of the educated employment and uneducated employment, and there is a big tangible impact on the economic system as well, which in certain cases can collapse because of the demand of labor is quite high and the supply is very low. In last, I would like to share the conclusion of the topic international labor mobility and its consequences on the home country. Yes, there is a big impact on the economic growth of the country, the home country. It's getting upwards just because the remittance is coming from abroad by the money earned by the international laborers. But if you see in terms of national growth and the nationwide growth, it's showing the negative impact, just in the sense that all the highly educated labor is moving out of the country just because they are not seeing their bright future. They are not seeing the enough resources which can provide them a better lifestyle, which they can easily get in abroad. So that's what my viewpoint on the conclusion. Hope you all like our presentation, the work done by my mates Yasir Khan, Mohsin Khan, and me, Mohammad Maz, myself. Thank you very much.